Hello, everyone. Welcome to the All Things Good podcast. Once again, I am your host, Jovanna Discusses, and I'm excited to tap into today's topic. Hello, everyone. So today I want to talk about recovering from people pleasing. So if you've been listening to my podcast, you will know that I have come from a place of people pleasing. I've come from a season of staying shut, being the yes person. I lost my voice, my ability to make decisions. I took the blame for things that weren't even my fault. And one day it was like a light switch went off and a lot of things were revealed. And I decided that I wasn't going to be that person anymore. I decided that I never wanted to be that person again. So today I want to touch on what is a people pleaser? How is it formed? I want to talk about what it looks like. And I want to talk about what we can do to begin to regain our identity. First, let's talk about where people pleasing comes from. People pleasing is actually a trauma response that forms from rejection and abandonment, which then creates a low self-esteem. So to fill that void, people pleasers will make themselves overly available to others. And what happens is when this begins to happen, the person that is connected to us may become overly dependent on us. And what happens is codependency starts to be created and it just becomes toxic. It's a toxic relationship. It's a toxic environment because you have one who feels like they need to give and then you have the other one that feels like they need to take. So with that being said, when people begin to see this trauma response, others may either knowingly or unknowingly take full advantage of this and use it to their benefit. So someone who is unhealthy and thrives on taking from others will not necessarily approach this form of behavior. They will allow it to run its course. And a lot of controlling and manipulative people or narcissistic people see this as an opportunity for their benefit. So pretty much what they'll do is they will cash in on your low self-esteem and they will blame you for things that weren't your fault. So they're going to take full reign when they see this. But again, we have to discern. Some people just don't know that they are doing this. Some people are like, okay, I love this. I love the fact that this person is such a giver and I'm just going to, take. And they don't know that they're doing this. But then you have others who absolutely know. And these are narcissistic people. They will continue to take as much as they can until you have nothing left. So again, if you see people who are acting as people pleasers, maybe you see this characteristic, maybe you see this behavior, and you're like, man, they really are just a yes person. Really look at this. First of all, you want to make sure that you're not in this place yourself. Sometimes when we are in this place, we don't even know that we're in it. And so I really want you to look at yourself and look at those around you to see, hey, are they maybe a people pleaser? Is there a potential trauma response that I hear going on because they are constantly saying yes, constantly giving themselves. And for what I know of this person is struggling here. This person doesn't have that much time. This person is, not emotionally stable, or this person is not mentally stable. Then you know that there might be a chance that they have a trauma response, which is people pleasing. So it's important for us to be good friends, to be good people. And when we see this, to let them know, hey, maybe you need to do some healing. Maybe you need to sit back and say no every now and then, because what have you done for yourself? You don't want them to lose parts of themselves that they are not willing to lose and that they don't even know they're about to lose. So, just, take this into consideration. Love considers others. And if you see this, then consider them. Consider what you went through. Consider what they may encounter. All right, so now that you know what a people pleaser is and where it stems from, now you know that it is a trauma response, and a lot of people are unknowingly responding in this way because of unhealed trauma, unhealed rejection, unhealed abandonment. And now you know that a lot of narcissistic people will cash in on this. Now I want to talk about what are the signs of a people pleaser. So the first one is the low self-worth. Their self-esteem is completely low. They can't see or say anything good about themselves, and it just stops there. Anything when it comes to doing something for themselves, it just never happens. The next sign Sign number 2 is that they accommodate everyone else's needs. Now, hear me out. Accommodating someone else's needs is not necessarily coming from a people-pleasing response. Sometimes, considering someone, you will accommodate someone else's needs before yours because, for example, let's say, for instance, you have a friend or you have a partner or a relationship, a mother, a father, whoever, and they're going through something, but you too are going through something, but their struggle or their challenge is a bit more extreme than yours. So in that case, I would say you would put them first because their experience is a bit more challenging than yours. And sometimes it's okay to say, hey, it's okay. Let's put you first today because you're going through it a little bit more than I am. And that's fine. But if you are constantly doing this, if you are constantly accommodating everyone's needs, not just one person, everyone's needs before yourself, then you may be responding from a traumatic place. The next thing is undermining your own needs. That goes back to what I just stated. Accommodating everyone else's needs, and then you undermine your own. Your needs are not as important. And again, love considers. So if they're going through something that is not as extreme as yours, then that's okay. But you can't constantly undermine your own needs. You're going to lose yourself. You're never going to address what you need to address for your personal life because you're addressing everyone else's. The next thing is going with the flow that is dictated by others. So if you're in a relationship, you're in a friendship, a workplace, if you're in a group, whatever the case might be, and someone is always dictating, they're always setting the rules, they're always making the decisions for you, they're always planning for you, they're always, the one in charge, never really seeking your counsel, your advice, maybe even your input, and you allow it, then you have this belief system that what you say and what you think doesn't matter. And it's okay for everyone else to make the decisions for you. And so you don't trust yourself enough. You don't value yourself enough to speak up on these things and to make decisions on behalf of your own life. And so I want to help you get through this. I want to help you break out of it because you can lose yourself through this. Okay, so the next one is you're too agreeable. Even when you know that something is wrong, even if you feel it deep in your spirit, in your soul, when you discern it and you pick it up that it is a no, 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 and that is something that should not take place, you still agree. That's something we have to break off. The next one is you rarely say no. Now, this is a problem because a lot of the times people are needy. They need things. And if we don't say no, and we're constantly there, let's say, for instance, providing finances, providing counsel, providing time, whatever the case might be. If you say yes when you really should be saying no, let's say, for instance, someone always needs money. You are not giving them the chance to become mature, to become responsible, to find their own resources, for God to come and have his way in their lives, because you are constantly playing God. You want to constantly provide. You want to constantly be there for this person. But in reality, it's unhealthy. Now, I get it. Trust me, I get it. Because I was the same way. I wanted to be the person that they looked for. But I now know that that is unhealthy. I now know that people should be responsible to take care of themselves and fend from themselves and be able to become mature adults and take responsibility for their lives. And that's okay. It's okay. That's actually a form of love because you're giving them space and you're giving God space to be who God needs to be. The next one is you feel valuable when complying with others. So complying, always being the yes person makes you feel good. It makes you feel like you're the go-to person. A sense of confidence is suddenly built. You have a self-esteem. You have some worth. It's like you have a cape on your back because they're coming to you and you're saying yes. I know. I've seen this. I've felt this. I've been this. If this is you, don't worry. there's hope. There's always hope. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, so the next one is you value praise from others. Now, I personally love to receive affirmations. Receiving affirmation is my love language. And that may stem from me being abandoned and me being rejected. But I don't feel like I need to be praised all the time. So with that being said, receiving praise and encouragement is healthy. In fact, those that you work with, those who you are surrounded with, your friends, your family, they should be encouraging you. They should be acknowledging the things that you do right. And it's not to place you on a pedestal, but to let you know that, hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing life. You're doing great at life. You're doing great in what you're serving. You're doing great as a mother. You're doing great as a father. You're doing great as a teacher. You're doing great. But if you constantly desire and need the praise from people, then that's when it becomes an unhealthy place. The next one is you say sorry when no apology is required. Now, I have to be honest. I still do this. I still say sorry when I probably should not have said sorry. When you have this trauma response of people pleasing, you feel like you don't want them to be offended and you don't want them to have the opportunity to abandon you and reject you. So you say sorry when in reality, you did nothing wrong. We have to stop this because it's unhealthy and it's toxic. And you're going to learn. You're going to learn, and I'm here for you to teach you and show you how to stop doing this. And it all starts with boundaries. And we're going to talk about that. Actually, I'm not going to talk too much about that because I want you to go to my previous podcast. I have 2 episodes on boundaries. There's 2 parts and they're very helpful. And so the next one is you take the blame when you're not at fault. Do you find yourself taking on burdens and taking on responsibilities that had nothing to do with you or that you played no part in? This is a big one. The next one is you make excuses for the faults of others. You're backing them up and you're probably even putting yourself down while you're praising them. Then last one is you have little self-awareness. So you're not aware of what you're doing. You're not aware of how you're responding. You're not aware of the need and the attention that you're craving, because what happens is your mind has gotten accustomed to this response. And so even if you were never like this before, now you are, and it's become your reality. But in reality, this is not who you are, and it's not what God created for you. He created you to be in love, and people pleasing is not a form of love. You're doing it from the wrong place. And so if you find yourself in any of these categories, then you may be a people pleaser. And I pray that these signs and symptoms may help you to wake up to see that there's healing that is needed in some areas. And I don't want you to overlook this, because I want you to gather the parts of yourself that you have given to everyone else and bring them back to yourself. Bring your pieces back, because what you have done is you scattered yourself in so many places and you've lost who you truly are. And so people pleasing is really not something that we should take lightly. It does come from a trauma response. It doesn't seem so drastic, but at the end, when you realize that you've done so much people pleasing and you weren't doing anything for yourself, it becomes serious. It becomes serious. It became serious for me when I realized what I was doing. And so now I want to talk about the recovery part. You know, I really, really thank God for allowing things to happen in my life the way that they did. Because if they didn't happen the way that they did, then I would not have any awareness that I was responding in this way in the form of a people pleaser. But God knows all things. And after some events had taken place, some things happened, it was like I woke up and I realized that I had lost so much. And I began to realize the selfishness of others, the lack of accountability, and even the blame I took for matters that had nothing to do with me. And so I began to speak up. And I have to be honest, I was upset. I was very upset because I realized that I've allowed these things to happen and I wasn't aware of it. And so now I want to tell you some things that I personally did, the things that I did to break out of this people-pleasing trauma response. The first thing I did personally was I set boundaries. I started to set boundaries with everyone around me. I started to say no to things I didn't want to do. I stopped giving so much of me to others and decided to pour back into myself and do things for me and get back to the things that God has placed in me. And so, some may call it selfish, but I found my joy again. And if me finding my joy again and finding myself again and finding my voice again and finding love again is selfish, then I'll just be selfish. But I needed to do what was right for me. I needed some time for me. And so I just began to, set some boundaries. I kind of disconnected, and maybe I might have disconnected in an unhealthy way, but it was all I knew how at that point in time. So I took about 6 to 8 months to just stop. I stopped serving in ministry. I disconnected from everyone I was connected to because I needed to find my voice again. And I'm not going to say that you should disconnect from everyone. So boundaries doesn't mean disconnection. Let's make that clear. I think that you need to assess your life and see who benefited from the people pleasing, who benefited from this trauma response, and maybe have a conversation with them and say, hey, I think I need some time because I've realized that this is the person that I've been and I no longer want to be this. And I don't know what that's going to look like for me. And I don't know what that's going to look like for you and our friendship. And so I think that is the right way to approach your boundaries and your friends and those around you. I personally did not do this. I was so upset because of everything that I had been awakened to that I just said, you know what? If this is what has been revealed, then I know that I have some things that I need to start changing in my life. And I just started to say no, and I started to make decisions for myself. And me making decisions for myself wasn't necessarily bad, but at that point in time, I didn't realize what I was going through. I didn't realize that I was a people pleaser. I didn't realize that my life was about to change, and it might have changed my relationship with those around me. And so I had to just fall back for some time and find out what was really going on. But when I did do this, I became a different person. I became stronger. I began to speak up more. I began to set goals and achieve them. And not for nothing, I actually began to love more. I loved more than I've ever loved before because now I'm not doing it from a place of fear. I'm doing it out of sincere love. Before, I was doing it from a place of fear. I was doing it from a place of rejection and abandonment. But now I'm doing it from a place of just being authentic. So the first one is boundaries. Very important. The second thing I want you to do is forgive. Forgive those who benefited from this behavior. Again, some people didn't know, but some people do know. And whether it was knowingly or unknowingly, it's not for me to judge. It's not for anyone else to judge. It's not for you to judge. It's for God to judge. But regardless of what, forgive them. Forgive them for the little things that you've seen, the little things that happened in your life that they knew what they were doing, or maybe it seemed like they knew what they were doing. Just forgive it. Because again, it's not for you to judge or to figure it out, because you know what? It's going to be stressful. You're going to stress yourself out trying to figure out, did they know what they were doing? At this point, it doesn't even matter. The past is the past, right? Forgive them. Let them go. In your heart, in your mind, let that anger go, let that frustration go, and just move on. And that's hard to do, and it takes time, but it's possible. The third thing I want you to do is start learning to put yourself first. You've went through seasons and times of constantly putting others first. Now it's time for you to start putting yourself first. And don't feel guilty about it. Because a lot of the times when we start to put ourselves first, we feel guilty. We feel like this is incorrect. This is out of order. But it's important. It's needed. You need to put yourself first. The next thing I want you to start doing is start practicing self-awareness. This is tip number 4. Practice self-awareness. Recognize your patterns. Even recognize when you just said yes to something that you probably should have said no to. Look at it, assess it, dissect it. Do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go to this event? Do I really want to help this person? Can I really help this person? Can I really go to this event? Do I have the time? Do I have the capacity? And in those moments where you said yes, where you should have said no, I think it's okay for you to go back and say, hey, I kind of committed to this and I just realized that I can't. And go back and do that. And don't apologize for it. Maybe you made an inconvenience, then I can understand that. But if you're doing something for yourself, it's okay. Just learn for next time not to be so quick to say yes. Really consider yourself first. Consider yourself first, please. So the next one is to surround yourself with new people. And I say this because a lot of the old people are used to your old responses. They're used to your old ways. It's good to start surrounding yourself with new people and start practicing the new you. It sounds weird. It sounds crazy. It sounds different. But you start to build yourself up. You start to build a new person, a new creation. And that's fun. I think it's fun. The next thing you should do is number 6 is affirm thyself. Start practicing positive self-talk. When we are coming from a place of abandonment and rejection, we have a low self-esteem. And when we begin to speak more positively about ourselves, we begin to build our self-esteem. Now, I just thought of something. A lot of people may feel that they've overcame this place already. They've forgiven that person that abandoned them. They've forgiven that person that rejected them. And a lot of the times this is true. What we fail to do is to renew our mind, our will, and emotions to align with this new truth, this new healing, this new person. I've often seen that in myself. I'm like, I know I forgave them. I know that I've, moved past this. But what happens is there's a programming within our mind that still believes that we didn't forgive them, that still wants to live in this place of trauma, that still wants to live in this place of unhealthiness. But when we begin to practice self-affirmation and positive talk and renewing of the mind, then we begin to reprogram the whole system to walk in this new creation, the place where we're healed, the place that we're full of love, the place that we're full of joy. So I really felt it was important to mention that so that you can take this into consideration when you're in the process of recovering from the people pleaser response. Now, the last tip that I have for you is something that I personally am still trying to overcome. And I'm going to be honest. I am part of an organization called As She Speaks Coaching. And my 2 sisters, Emma and Michelle, were talking to me. And they began to say, Jovanna, you are not the person that you were in your last season. You are not that people pleaser any longer, is pretty much what they were saying. And what she began to say is that you have to trust yourself to not be that same person again. You have to trust that that season is gone. And you have to trust that you are a new person. And the person you used to be is no longer existent. And when she told me that, I was like, you are absolutely correct. I still don't trust myself. I've forgiven myself because I was mad at myself. I'm not going to lie, I was mad. But now I have to come into a place of trusting myself. Because, a lot of times we forgive people, but we don't necessarily have to stay connected to them, right? But we forgive ourselves And we have to stay connected to ourselves, obviously. But do we trust ourselves enough to believe that we will never be that person again, that people pleaser again, and lose ourselves again? Because it costs us so much. It cost me so much to be that person, to be that people pleaser, to constantly say yes, to constantly give myself, to constantly be that person that's there for everyone else and always putting myself last. It cost me so much. But now I have to trust myself, and you have to trust yourself that you are no longer that person in the last season. You know, what she said echoes. You are not the same person that you were before. You've learned. You've let go, and now it's time for you to trust that you are someone different. And so forgiving yourself and trusting yourself brings so much healing. Because when we don't heal and we don't forgive ourselves and we don't trust ourselves, you know what we do? What we do is we rob ourselves the opportunity of new friendships, new family, new love, new endeavors. And so I'll need you to take this serious, because it's serious. This is your life we're talking about. This is your identity. I need you to focus on becoming the person that you were before that trauma happened. And so I hope that this podcast helps you. I hope that this episode has shined some light into those areas of people pleasing. I hope that you share. I hope that you would even listen again for the tips. Listen again for what it looks like, and look out for those around you. Look out for your people. Look out for your friends and your family who are responding from this place of trauma, because you want them to remain true to who they are. You want them to not lose parts of themselves to others. Be a good friend. Be a good neighbor. Be like State Farm. Do your duty. Man, if you don't do anything else, do that. But anyways, I'm your girl, Jovanna Discusses. This is the All Things Good podcast. I hope that you share. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And if you have any questions or anything you want to add, then feel free to reach out to your girl. Okay, I'll see you on the flip side. Well, that about wraps up this episode. I want to thank you so much for listening to the All Things Good podcast. I hope that you share and send with those around you. And remember to keep your mind focused on all things good. Until next time. I'm your host, Jovanna Discusses.